All present except for Loretta, who has an excused absence, and Loretta Heron. Our next order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Porter.
Audience, please rise. Right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You seated? Presentations from the ACT liaison, from the Teen Activity liaison.
Thank you, Mr.
But
Chair.
before we get to presentations, we will have public comments. Thank you. I skipped ahead. So at this time, members of the public may address the Commission regarding any items within the subject matter of the Commission. No actions may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comment section. Any person wishing to address the Commission on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda or is requested to complete a request to speak form, which is available as you walk in, and hand it back to the recording secretary. The completed item form is to be submitted to the recording secretary prior to the individual being heard. If you have a lengthy comments, you're most welcome to request a written form, and any pertinent points presented orally will be presented to us. Additionally, a request to register written comments, again, is available. Do we have public comment requests?
We do. The first person is Sunny Morper, followed by Heiko Pichel, and the attachment or the paper that's on your desk is in regard to Sunny Morper's comments.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sunny Morper. I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Lake Forest II Master Homeowners Association. For those of you who are not members, you may be interested to know that we have almost 3,500 homes that are in our association. In meeting with the board recently, I spoke to them following an approval for our July 4th fireworks display, which in our budget is about $20,000. I suggested to them that I speak with you and possibly the City Council about a concept. And the idea basically is that on Geronimo Road, if it was approved, the city might block off that intersection at Geronimo Road up about 200, 300 feet in order to create a space for anyone in the city to come and for free watch the fireworks display. That's the concept. Now, I don't know if it's your purview or if it's the City Council, but we thought I would start here and at least present the concept, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to respond.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Questions,
Questions, comments?
please. Looking, Sonny, at this really quickly, seeing a lot of rooftops in that intersection, which is, I'm presuming, Lake Forest and Geronimo. Is that what the? Oh, I'm looking at something totally different that's sitting on my desk.
Well, your map is a better map.
Okay, so.
But I did mark it off to indicate the approximate area of Geronimo that would be blocked off.
Should I be turning it this way then?
Yes.
Okay, that's one help right there.
Okay.
Now it makes sense. Lake Forest, Geronimo going across.
Right. And
Okay.
I might add that if you were sitting on Geronimo, with your lawn chair or whatever, you'd be able to easily see the fireworks display, because as you may recall, there is a fence that is a wrought iron fence that has a gap of about 4 inches between each of the portion of the fence, so there'd be no problem in seeing the fireworks, and obviously they go up several hundred feet.
And you're proposing just cordoning off, as you said, a couple of 100 feet of Geronimo only?
Yes.
If you moved it back away from the Lake Forest thoroughfare?
Just whatever might be needed, away from the crosswalk. The idea is that no one could come off of Lake Forest Drive onto Geronimo. That's the concept, so that people could park their cars wherever and have a free space for them to sit and watch the fireworks.
Do you think, first of all, I think in all honesty, it is the purvey of the City Council, especially to make a decision on this, but we could lend a helping hand maybe, to it, because I think the idea has merit, personally.
Good.
Your access and into it would be off of obviously Lake Forest and going into that closed off here, because that area is pretty much closed off during the parade anyway, during the day on the 4th. It's closed off to Geronimo and Lake Forest. I'm sorry, Toledo and Lake Forest.
It's Toledo.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. We're up above
Yeah.
it, but there's some closure going on.
Yeah.
How many people do you think this might accommodate?
It's a first-time opportunity. I don't know. It depends upon what the advertising would be. Obviously, those in Lake One and anywhere else in the city would be invited through your literature. Certainly, we would submit it, and the price is right.
True.
Presently, it's a vacant spot. People that do watch from outside the property of the Lake Forest Lake Forest 2 Master Homeowners Association do so on the sidewalk, because Geronimo is still, wide open.
Right. No, it makes sense. Yeah.
Well,
I would personally, and I'm one body, that's all. I would endorse it because right now, besides the Master Homeowners Association at Lake 2, you are it as far as fireworks go in the city of Lake Forest.
we are what?
You're it. You do fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
The only other fireworks are done in people's backyards.
Yeah, we realize that. So it's a goodwill gesture, we think, on our part, at no additional cost to us, because...
Yeah, it's going up anyway,
Yeah.
so... Okay. Again, the suggestion I would make, and I'd look to staff as well, obviously, to suggest that you also bring this to the city council.
Okay,
And I would be very happy to get up and give a positive comment to it.
thank you.
Thank you. Very well. Thank you. Your time's up, Bill. Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Next is Heiko Pichel, followed by Anthony Giota.
Good evening. Heiko Peschel, 4 Perel Avenue, Foothill Ranch. Resident of the neighborhood since approximately November 1960. It's been a couple of years. Anyway, I like to see what I like what the city of Lake Forest is doing with parks and recreation in general. I would like to ask you to be careful in any major changes that you might be planning to any of the parks without actually directly, and I mean directly, notifying the homeowners in that neighborhood. I know that you've had planning meetings and all that sort of stuff, and very little attendance, mostly because people don't seem to care until it's too late. And the only way I can say is the Montberry Park thing at the last council meeting was an example of people getting all excited over what was probably not a whole lot of anything. They had two problems. One with somebody with a survey equipment out there in the park, and two with the people in the adjacent shopping center using that street next to the shopping center, the side street, to park all day. That was a problem with there. Problem obviously is that, I'm sorry, I'm talking too loudly. The problem is obviously that there are not enough parking places in the parking lot there at Liquor on the Rocks for all the people who want to go there. Otherwise, they wouldn't make their barbers park on the side street. Anyway, thank you very much. Evening, Jim. Evening, Vic. And Lisa and Francisco, good to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I make a comment on the comment, please?
Yes?
Thank you. Heiko, I think your comment has one part that you could have highlighted that you really didn't, and that is that most people don't care or get involved until it's too late, when they have something that they really wanted to put out there. A couple of things in reference to Montbury specifically. I live in that tract. I live in Montbury. That's my, quote, neighborhood park for whatever it is worth. Yes, like most people in that development, I'm a dog lover. Okay, so having bared my soul and said all that, the item that was brought up at the second series of workshops regarding that park was not turning it into a dog park, per se, for one, but creating possibly a dog run area. I'm sure staff would be very willing to back this up. We have a protocol by which we notify people in the, quote, immediate area. Part of the problem in the Montbury area, the immediate area, because of the size of the lots, it's not like in Parkside, where within a couple of 100 feet you get 40 homes. You get about 5, or things like that. And the other part, having been as you were at that council meeting, when that was brought up, the people that were involved in bringing that up basically represented 9 homes. The tract is closer to 300. And honestly, having lived there a while and seeing how that park is used by the neighborhood and the residents, whether there was a, quote, official dog run there or not, the number of dogs in the park most probably would not decrease at all, because the dogs are primarily those of local people, local residents. They take them to local parks, that type of thing, and they do their thing. So, again, I think we're very aware of it. We will see everything, obviously, before it goes to council and look at it with that in mind. But, again, 9 residents does not a city represent, and I do think we've done our due diligence according to what is expected. So,
Can I make one brief comment?
sure, thank you.
The thing is that those 9 residents were the ones who lived right adjacent to the park.
True.
And they were worried about the noise factor.
Right. And they're worried, unless it's the other thing that goes with it is a concept called not my backyard, which is in this part of the business very well known, that as long as it's done somewhere else, it's okay. But I'd kind of like to keep what I have the way it is right now. So hopefully at the end, a good decision will be made. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next is Anthony Giunta, followed by Michael Morrison.
Good evening. I think you're going to see a little bit of a pattern here with regard to the parks. I'm here to get involved in the process, and specifically around what we're hearing about proposals around Rancho Serrano Park. So the voice here is concern about proposals for changes. What we see, what we experience when we use the park, frankly, we don't want any of that to change. It's a beautiful, open, natural park. It's a passive park, and the reason I'm here today is to get involved in the process so that it stays that way. I want to be sure that me and my neighbors are staying on top of the decisions that are being made. We stay ahead of the process. That was a recommendation that City Council gave to me and the Mayor gave to me when I wrote them a letter. They were very good about getting back to me, by the way. So that's why I'm here today. Thanks.
Thank you. Every intent that the Commission has is to secure input from the community. So we're very concerned about making sure all this input is presented to us, although attendance varies, and we understand that. However, we try to reach out as best as we can through all the media, social media included, to ensure that input is provided to us that the right thing will happen, that's in the best interest of the citizens, and that is our utmost concern and always will be our concern. Thank you again for your comment.
Can I make one comment?
Yes.
One other comment, too, is with the renovations that they made last year, they were doing more of these regionalized meetings and that type of thing since then. And I know that was one of the things that I brought up, too, was that it needs to be more accessible because of the working people not able to make the meeting times. And so they have put the surveys, I've noticed it more online, definitely a bigger push through social media channels with Parks and Recreation so that you can go on and voice your opinions that way if you can't make a meeting. So I encourage everybody, if it's your park, to definitely, if you can't make those meetings, get online, let your voice be heard, because we want more input than just a few, than like 9 homes or whatever. We definitely want, and I encourage that too. Thanks.
Very well.
Good point.
Next is Michael Morrison, followed by Bernie Esposito.
Good evening. I have a quick question. If the council has any idea about, I heard that in the past, the S&S builders that built around Rancho Sunbury Park had an agreement with Lake Forest that it would be a passive park. Do any of you have any knowledge of that?
I don't have knowledge of that. I know that our Public Works Department is researching each of the 10 parks for those types of issues, and that would be something that we could likely discuss.
All right. I don't know if it was hearsay, but the person that talked to me had been one of the original owners there, so that was my question to you.
To add to that, what I remember, having lived in this area for a very, very long time when that area was first developed, even though I didn't live there, was involved with youth sports, that a part of the park, if you look at it, it's kind of divided into 2 portions, or I don't know the best way to really put it, that a part of it was designated, let's call it that word, not maybe even formally designated, but to be more of a, not to be used for a lot of stuff, and it's a smaller part, and the big open part was used for, going back years and years on and off, for different kinds of sports. So
Okay.
as far as it becoming like totally just, a great expanse of lawn where nothing ever happened, that's really not been the case.
All right.
Unless there's something that nobody knew from an old county statute or something like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next is Bernie Esposito.
Good evening. I'm also here to address the Montberry Park situation, and I did talk with the City Council, or addressed the City Council last Tuesday evening. And while your comment about 300 homeowners versus 9 homeowners is true, we're the 9 homeowners who are most directly affected.
I understand that.
And as I pointed out last week, there was a gentleman conducting obedience training in the park, and he had probably 8 to 10 dogs, and the noise coming from just that many dogs was very unnerving, very unpleasant, and really restricted the use of our backyards. So we're all very, very opposed to a dog run or a dog park in Montberry Park, and certainly we'd prefer that it stay in its present state and be utilized by residents for picnics, weddings, barbecues, and things of that nature, rather than having, a lot of noise. And all of us who addressed the City Council last week, every single one of us are pet owners. I have a dog, and every one of the others have a dog. So we're not anti-animal or anti-dog in any way. But we all have a substantial investment in our homes, and I'm sure you can appreciate that since you live in Montberry.
I do.
And we would like to maintain those values as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Mr. Esposito, a quick question, maybe resident to resident, if I can use this forum for that.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I said the question is, if I can use this forum to ask I'll call it a related question. What would you, as a resident, I mean a neighbor to the park, what would you like to see done there? Have you had an opportunity to express that opinion or come to a workshop or anything?
Well, I've been to many workshops as it related to the development of the sports park. I had not heard anything about this until just before I came to the council meeting on Tuesday evening. Had I heard something previous, none of us that I spoke to had ever received any type of notice that this was under consideration by the Parks and Rec Commission or the City Council. So when we did find out about it, 9 of us did take the time to show up, and that was just kind of a hastily put together. Let's go down and talk to the City Council about it. So we will be proactive.
Okay. Did you ever see the banners that were put on the park itself?
Never saw any banners whatsoever.
Okay.
And I don't. If there were any banners, they were certainly well hidden.
Well, they were when you came up North Crest.
Yes.
From where Liquor the Rocks was.
Right.
Coming in that way, there was one on the fence there, and when you turned right onto Montberry, on the fence area there, and they were pretty good-sized banners.
Well, I live on Montberry.
Yeah,
and, I never saw any banners of any kind.
No, it's just good to find out.
No, yeah, I mean,
it didn't have the effect we wanted it to.
Well, apparently, it wasn't just me that missed that banner. It was all the rest of the residents that missed it also. Yeah. And you addressed the Liquor of the Rock and the parking. Well, the situation we have there is the barber shop there, which is quite active, has all of their barbers parking on North Crest.
Yeah, right.
So there's going to be a lot of parking that's going to spill over onto Montberry and Rushford. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, thank you.
I have no more requests to speak.
Mr. Chair, if I can just make a brief comment. I just wanted to thank everyone for coming in tonight and talking about the parks. We definitely appreciate your input. Whether you knew about the meetings or not, you're here now. We appreciate that. I think the big discussion, there are 2 coming up. One will be April 19th at the next Park Commission meeting. That'll be in this room at 7 o'clock. That's when the consultant will actually show up and talk about some concepts and who asked for things and how we came up with that. Following that, when we receive input from the residents and the commissioners, we take the next step, we take those designs, I wouldn't call them designs, I'd call them concepts, to the City Council. And then the City Council really has the final say on what the parks are going to look like. This is scheduled to go to the City Council either in June, probably in June, possibly the second meeting of May. But there is a sign-up sheet up here up front. If you'd like to leave your email address, we're going to go ahead and send an email out, just keeping everyone in the loop so you have the opportunity to show up. Thank you again.
Moving right along to presentations now, the report from the ACT liaison.
Hello, my name is Zach Smay, and I'm here to represent ACT. I'm just going to be talking about what we've been doing in the past month and what we will do. Recently, we helped. We provided water for the adoptable pet care, and we helped provide toys and gifts for the pets. And what's to come is we've started working on crafts for the upcoming Bunny Blast. And our theme this year is the Dr. Seuss Extravaganza, in which we'll be preparing over 1,000 Dr. Seuss bags, and the city will be providing stamp cards. And we look forward to volunteering for the event and hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. We now have a report from the Senior Advisory Board.
Good evening. Oops, sorry. Sandy Stang. So today, the seniors, we had our St. Patrick's Day celebration, thus the green. And thank you, Victor, for joining us. We missed you, Jim. And We had about 150 people. We had, of course, the corned beef and cabbage. We had soda bread. And then we had some entertainment. They were guessing sayings and songs and expressions. It was very nice, well attended. We had our senior advisory board meeting yesterday, and some of the things that we're working on is expanding the senior games. We came up with a senior game program. The taxi program is changing a little bit. There'll be ID cards, and as far as I understand, we'll be paying cash to the driver now. So instead of coming to the city and getting the vouchers and all that, which will be really nice, that's what a lot of the other cities are doing. And it makes it more accessible for more people to use that program. On March 30th will be our last day for suggestions for naming the new senior center. And as you know, we're trying to stay away from the name senior, and we're trying to stay away from center if possible. Most of the new senior centers have come up with names, Norman Murray, Susie Q, and different things like that. Let's see. Oh, we have AARP. We presented a program. They have an age-friendly cities program. It takes 4 years to qualify and get all the materials together. But we think that would be a nice thing for the city of Lake Forest. We got on the calendar for next June that that's the month of elder abuse, so we've got that on the calendar, and then we'll have a speaker coming in so everyone's aware of elder abuse. We were also working on the 4th of July float. We wanted to have something with all roads leading to the new center, but it's getting downsized and changed, so it's not exactly what we wanted. I guess we're going back to the train. AARP right now is providing free tax preparations for people with, real easy, modest tax returns. We have the Yahtzee tournament coming up on March 26th. Ping pong has become extremely popular. We have it on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have one table, and we don't have enough room, but everyone's anxious to get another table, but we don't know where to put it yet. So when we go to the new center, maybe that won't be a problem. We have a Rummy Cube tournament on March 27th. All the nominations for the Volunteer of the Year award were submitted, and we reviewed the candidates, and we're making our recommendations to the people reviewing that. We have movies coming up. The next movie is The Mountain Between Us. Those are free. That's March 28th. March 22nd, on a Thursday for the luncheon, we're going to have a magician. And then what we've had was the Happy Trails dinner dance, barbecue, and there were 81 Lake Forest residents that attended that on a Friday night. And then mini excursions, Bejas Casino Outlet, Chapman University, Leatherby Library, Old Orange County Courthouse in Santa Ana, Griffith Observatory, Sherman Gardens, and this one I didn't know. This is a brand new one to me. Country Store Peacemakers in Costa Mesa. I never heard of that. So that'll be good. So any comments or questions?
Sandy, I apologize for not being there.
Oh, we missed you.
I was at the CPRS conference the last 2 days, so.
Oh, okay, that's a good reason. We'll excuse you this time.
But keep in mind, I represented Jim when I was there.
Oh, okay.
So he was here. He was there in spirit.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But he also wasn't at the Senior Advisory Board.
No, I was there yesterday, too.
I know.
So. 2 days.
He always goes to that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Now we are ready for the Public Works Department Project Quarterly Update, October through December 2006.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. The Public Works Department Quarterly Update for the fourth quarter of 2017 is included in your meeting package. I'd like to bring your attention to a few capital improvement projects that are upcoming, recently completed, or currently under construction. Construction continues at Veterans Park. The project has encountered some challenges related to the existing pond edge, which I brought up at the last quarterly meeting. Staff, with input of the designer, has developed a solution to these issues and has negotiated a change order with the contractor. The contractor has finished grading for the new pond edge, and the lake subconsultant is designed to begin constructing the new shoreline next week, weather permitting. The new design includes construction of a new pond edge, including the addition of an 8-foot wide submerged concrete safety ledge, installation of a new aeration system to improve water quality, as well as a new pond liner. The Portola Park, Lancy, the developer for the Portola Center, has run into some delays related to the delivery of the park site and is still working to complete the rough grading. It is scheduled to be turned over to the city in June, and staff anticipates bidding the park out for construction sometime this summer. Barker Dog Park shade structures were recently completed, and the park was open to the public on February 23rd. Additionally, Public Works maintenance staff installed soft close hinges on the gates to reduce noise levels for the nearby residences. The sports park's spring turf renovations are scheduled to begin in April with the commons and then moving to the soccer fields in June. During this period, the fields will be fenced off and the turf will be verticut, which is a thinning of the grass, aerated, and top dressed, which is adding a mixture of sand and compost to fill in the aerated holes, and then it would be overseeded with the hybrid Bermuda grass seed. In addition, special amendments designed to improve the soil and stimulate seed growth would be added. This concludes my update, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? I have a question on the Veterans Park. Am I getting the impression there's been some surprises that you didn't anticipate?
Definitely.
And if so, from a priority standpoint, what is the biggest challenge that you see at the moment?
I think the biggest challenge was getting past the issues we ran into with the pond. The original pond design, the original park design did not include any major changes to the pond. It was mainly just going to be draining of the pond and removing some of the sediment buildup that has occurred since basically the park was constructed. And when that draining occurred, we discovered that the pond wall was very deteriorated to the point where it was not salvageable. So basically at that point, we had to step back and take the approach of redesigning the pond edge.
My understanding is that pond really has not been drained for some time. Is that a correct statement?
As far as I know, yeah. I don't
to my knowledge.
I don't think it's been drained in a number of years.
Well, that's understandable.
If ever.
When you drained it, you realized there were some issues. So how much delay has that caused at this point?
It's added about a 6-7 month delay to the project. It was scheduled to be completed in early 2018, January, February, and now it's currently targeting the end of summer, mid-August, September.
It's my understanding as well that the responsibility for maintenance on that was who?
I believe the water quality is part of the Lake HOA.
That's what I thought. Is that Lake Forest 1?
Yeah, I believe so.
And they were responsible by agreement to maintain that.
That was an agreement with the county that the city inherited when the city incorporated.
But clearly, as you got into this, it was clearly not maintained to the level that it should have been maintained, or they would have discovered those issues much early on.
Well, not necessarily, right? So Doug, if I'm correct, when we drained the water, we removed the sidewalk. The wall that deteriorated, that outlines the edge of the pond, was actually underneath the sidewalk, so it's something that wasn't really visible prior to the project. So I can't say if that's...
There were no outward signs that there was any deterioration in the wall under the sidewalk. It wasn't until the sidewalk was removed that this deterioration of the wall was discovered.
And I don't know that the deterioration is a result of poor maintenance standards. I think it's just old construction.
Okay. Well, the reason I made that comment is that typically on those type of ponds, from my understanding, is that from time to time you do drain it and clean out the sediment on the bottom and refill. But that apparently was not the case.
I don't believe so.
In this situation. But the fact is that you uncovered the situation, you're correcting the problem, and within 6 or 8 months, will be rectified.
That's our goal.
Okay, fair enough. That's all I have. Anybody else?
A related, if I may, related question to that. We started out, call it with a project, with a scope, with a dollar figure. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then along the way, we found out the pond, the well part of it is deteriorated, and obviously, if we're going to be waiting, some months for that part to be completed, there is an additional cost to that.
Yes.
Okay. That is absorbed how or by whom, or?
It's a change order that will be brought for the approval of City Council at a future date.
To be brought to them?
Currently, we're waiting for the pond. We have a signed change order by the contractor, and we're waiting for and council has been briefed,
Okay.
but the change order has not been approved by council to date. We're planning on bringing that to council when the contractor finishes the work on the pond restoration.
In other words, after to use a phrase, the horse is out of the barn, kind of?
Well, the pond needs to be reconstructed. There is a cost associated with
Right.
that. We did not want to bring the change order to council without having the final costs for the pond work. Council authorized the city to move forward at the December council meeting when we brought this issue up, and we informed them of the potential magnitude of the change, but we don't want to bring the final change until we know all those numbers related to the pond.
Okay. And of the people, entities, whatever that, I'm going to use the word surveyed, it may not be the correct word, that piece of water, there was no inkling that it could be very deteriorated or something like that?
Not that I recall from discussions with the designer.
Interesting. Because there are people who do that for a living. That can do that. All right, that's a different discussion. I appreciate the explanation.
Thank you. Good report. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Minutes of the regular meeting of the Lake Forest Parks and Recreation Commission held on February 15th. Any changes or modification?
I have one and one kind of. I have a request. My comments, I gotta find it, it's all out of order, sorry, included, just recap them, but they were kind of missing. Attendance there. Attendance at both the senior program dance and the special needs dance. If you could add that, or whatever you do to, Carol, please, to re-add that, would appreciate it. And then the other is a question, and I guess because it, on mine at least, came out in red type, it kind of stood out. Commissioner Herron's comment about the city of Irvine having different, I'm trying to paraphrase it, it makes more sense, different rules or something. And I took a quick look when I got this at their rules of their dog parks, and I really couldn't see something that stood out as being different in how they administer their dog parks. And of course, she's not here, so it's not, the bestest of time. But I guess my question, comment, concern is, why create an uproar about something that may not even exist?
Mr. Chair, if I could briefly address that.
Yeah, please.
Comment from Commissioner Rosenberg. I did follow up with Commissioner Herron on her comments about the dog park. I drew essentially the same conclusion, and I compared the rules for the two dog parks. They were very similar, and they're very standard as what you would see in other dog parks. Yeah. But I let her know that dog parks are new for us. We'll keep an eye out. We don't have plans to bring anything to the commission or council to change the rules at this time, but we're open to that in the future.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll leave kind of well enough alone. Okay, thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll move for approval.
All right, very well. The chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved, second? Yes. All in favor, press the appropriate button on your dial.
Press the button. Okay, press the button.
I think it's, yeah. Motion passes. Thank you. Now, we're going into the next section, which is discussion action items. I want to remind those in the audience that members of the public are invited to comment, and if so, please write a request to speak form and give it to the recording secretary. Do we have any speakers? Public comment?
I have none.
Okay. So moving right along into the Civic Center staffing update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. As the commission is aware, the city is currently building a new civic center right around the corner. And the commission is probably aware this is approximately a $70 million investment. The city regards this as its 100-year home. So obviously we're very excited about this. Some of the new facilities there, in addition to a new city hall, there's going to be a dedicated standalone senior center with approximately 17,000 square feet and a brand new community center with approximately 18,000 square feet that will have a nice outdoor atrium. It's really the job of the Community Services Department to staff all of these new facilities and to provide the programming. And for us, here we are about a year and a half before these facilities will actually open. We have started our own projections regarding staffing and budgeting and service level and operational hours, pretty much all of our operational plans for these facilities. And we would like to share with you what we have so far. So what you're going to hear from Recreation Managers Laura Lisak and Vicki Blevin, they're going to talk about the proposed hours for these facilities, the services, basically what can someone expect at each of these facilities, and towards the end, I'll wrap it up with a little kind of a closing statement on some of the lessons that we learned from opening the sports park as we move forward. And then we'll open it up to questions.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm proud to present the proposed staffing for the Community Center, Performing Arts Center, and Senior Centers. I put together just a few slides for some of you that may have not seen the overview regarding the buildings of the new Civic Center. So as you see, this is going to be the atrium area, the quad area, so kind of where everybody will be joining in. So you can do a roundabout there, and those buildings will meet each other. Again, another overview from a different angle, but just to get another concept of what these are actually going to be looking like. Here's our community center and what this is going to look like. We're expecting to get quite a few people. If any of you are familiar with the City of Mission Viejo and the way that they opened Norman Murray Center, although it's conjoined with a senior center, it was quite popular from the beginning. We're expecting that same type of crowd. Hopefully, we're going to amp up our programming, maybe move some things over. Some of our adult classes are going to come over to this community center. We're really going to focus more on families at this community center. Have some family programming and things like that. The sports center will completely stay the same. So nothing's going to move from the recreation center. All the staffing will stay there. So this is brand new staffing for both the community center and Performing Arts Center. The community center will be open Tuesday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Saturdays and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. with the option of staying open for rentals till 12 midnight. Now you see the staffing levels there. The staffing levels will be similar to what we have at the sports park. We realized once we opened the sports park that we were a little light staff-wise. We don't want to go in with too many staff, but at the same time we want to make sure that we're staffed enough where we're not running in different directions. So you see there, Senior Recreation Supervisor. If you guys are familiar with Nick Gates is the Senior Recreation Supervisor at the sports park. This position will be overseeing both buildings. So As you see there also in the grid, the Performing Arts Center is not going to be open every day. The Performing Arts Center at this point, we're proposing to be open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 10, which if you realize those are council and commission days. Those are the days that we're proposing that we open, along with Saturdays and Sundays for rentals. Those days are the hours where we think that theater groups will be coming in, maybe elementary schools, graduations, those types of things. Again, we're going to start small and grow from there. But this position is going to oversee both buildings, and I'll get into the responsibilities a little bit more, and then we can ask questions. Underneath that senior recreation position will be a recreation supervisor position, which is similar to Bill Berry or Monique. That person will be in direct contact with our contract classes, scheduling those, contract instructors, the scheduling of staff, and on-site events. We feel that we're going to get a lot of on-site events. Rentals will be changed to meet the needs of the community. We're going to really see a lot of increase of the things that are going to be happening as far as weddings, anniversaries, birthday parties, things of that nature. We're really going to open it up for the community. We're also going to have 2 part-time coordinators, one that's going to oversee the special events, the weddings, the permits, the applications, the whole process for that, for the community center, along with the Performing Arts Center. Those 2 positions will be sharing those duties. It may not be split directly in half, but between the 2, I feel that they can cover both of those buildings. They'll be overseeing the contracts. As any of you may know, if you're doing a rental, it is quite lengthy in the process, not just from the application, but collecting insurance, getting a deposit, following up, things like that. They'll also be overseeing the contract classes, so they'll be the direct contact when the recreation supervisor may not be there. They're a point of contact for them as well. We'll also have recreation specialists, 6 recreation specialists, which is also a part-time position. They're the people that you see sometimes when you walk into the front desk at the sports park. They're the ones that take registrations. They're the ones that can process payments. They're the ones that are going to be familiar with Active. They're going to be a point of contact in customer service and things like that, and they can be able to refer people to the coordinators, the supervisors, and senior recreation supervisors. And then we'll also have recreation leaders who will be our frontline staff. They'll be in charge of customer service, answering phones, doing room setups, etc. And as you see off to the right-hand side, we're going to have a part-time sound technician, which will be a contracted position, which will be in charge of the theater. In the theater, which is technically council chambers, we're going to have a quite intense sound system. So this person needs to be technically knowledgeable. It can't be a recreation staff person. It can't be a part-time person that just learned how to do the soundboard. It's somebody that we need to contract and hire from outside that knows this is the business. Any questions on this page, or go on? Okay. So here we've broken it down into staffing responsibilities. I kind of described it so that you guys know a little bit. You guys are familiar with the staff that we have at the sports park. But again, I just wanted to break it down a little bit further if you wanted to see truly what they're going to be doing. The full-time senior recreation supervisor, again, overseeing the building operations. With the new center, is going to come just like when you buy a new house. It's going to come with all the crooks, the crannies, and the knocks, the bells, the whistles that are, some may work, some may not work. So they're going to be figuring out what's working, what's not working. So that first year, that senior recreation supervisor is going to have their hands full, just dealing with trying to figure out what's going right, what's not going right, and having a lot of communication, working with Public Works a lot. But they're also going to be overseeing the full-time and part-time staff, and overseeing the contracts that go on there and the daily drops and things like that for deposits and basically building maintenance. The full-time recreation supervisor, again, will be overseeing all the contract classes, all the instructors. The part-time coordinators, they'll have direct contact with them. They'll be working closely with them because this person is going to be dealing with the meat and potatoes of this building. Both of these buildings, truly, because it's basically going to be what I envision is programming at its best. So we're planning to program this building because we have the space. We finally have the space to expand programming, and I would like to see programs that families can do together. Whether they take a chess class, it's a mom, a parent and a child chess class. those types of things, Spanish classes, things like that we haven't been able to offer because we've been limited on space. So we'll be able to expand programming, but really expand our rentals. And that's where you're going to really see an increase in rentals and the things that we'll be able to do there we're really excited about. We'll also have 2 part-time recreation coordinators. Like I said, those 2 positions will be overseeing those rentals. I can imagine we've already had, theater groups already coming to us and approaching us about time in the theater and the council chambers to be able to use that space. So I know that's going to be a very busy place as well. And then, like I discussed earlier as well, the specialists and the recreation leaders are very essential to the backbone of our building and meeting the customers, greeting the community, going out of their way to welcome people into the building because it'll be a hot spot. So I'm going to turn it over to Vicki to talk about the senior center. But is there anything that you guys have questions on regarding the community center or performing arts center?
Real quick,
Yep.
so the price of the rentals and all of that, that's going to be determined by the cost to provide those services. Is the cost of the new staff members going to be included in the cost to provide the services to determine those prices?
The short answer is yes. So what we do, the city, when coming up with new fees for new services, we're going to do a citywide fee study. So all the departments, not just for the new programs. But you're exactly right. So the new programs basically determine what is the real cost of offering these services, what is the real cost of cleaning the facility, maintaining the facility, right, keeping the lights on. It basically accounts for all of that. And then you look at what the real cost is versus what is the market rate, what would someone pay for a similar rental in a nearby city, and the city council would make a policy decision on what they think the fee would be. That would also likely come to the Parks Commission before it goes to council.
And so, like adding all these extra staff is not necessarily going to be coming out of the general budget as well, right? It's going to be kind of self-sufficient.
I don't expect this to be self-sufficient. This staff salaries do come out of the general fund. We draw revenue based on the rentals that we have, and also for all the classes and the programming that Laura talked about, we draw revenue from that also. An example would be the recreation classes that we offer at the sports park, I think generate, is it about $120,000 in revenue. It doesn't offset the cost of offering the services, but there really isn't a city around that has a self-sustaining community center.
Right. Okay, perfect, thank you.
But still, the intent is to not cover all the 100% of the costs. It's to cover some or a majority of it?
As much as we can, reasonably.
But those fees go into the general treasury, correct? They don't go into...
That's correct.
...into the parks and...
That's correct. So that's a budgeting question. The budget to run these facilities is not dependent on the revenue that comes in.
As it should be, because it would be difficult to cover anything higher than what the going market can bear.
Exactly.
If that's the philosophy. Okay, very well. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So thank you for your recreational report. I do have an interesting comment.
We have the senior center still.
Coming up, so I'll hold that until we hear the recreational report.
So I wanted to give you some information on the proposed hours and staffing for the senior center. And I hate saying senior center because that's not what we're going to call it, but for now, just so we know what we're referring to as the senior center. So this new facility is going to be approximately 17,000 square feet of interior space and about 6,000 square feet of programmable dedicated outdoor space. So when we look at the outdoor space, we're looking at a yoga deck, we're looking at places where we could have not a garden that you would put in the ground, but we would do garden boxes. We're looking at lots of things that we can be doing outside as well as inside. So the senior center, the hours we're looking at for the senior center are basically Monday through Friday, 10 to 4 p.m. And if you look on your you can't see so well up on that, but on your PowerPoint you'll see that there's gray boxes and there's pink boxes. The gray boxes refer to the staff we currently have. The pink boxes refer to either change in a staffing type or additional staff. So what we're basically going to be doing for the senior center is we're taking the programs that we already have here and we're moving them into the new facility with additional hours and additional spaces to do more things. So just the same with the community center and the performing arts center, we need to have the staff that will be able to help with those additional programs and the additional hours. So you're looking at an additional rec coordinator. That person works 1,200 hours, and those are the people who do a lot of the programming work for a mini excursion. They're playing the mini excursion. They're getting all that information together. I would call them, they're not really an administrator, but they're not as hands-on as you would have a rec leader or a senior rec leader. The senior rec leaders and the rec leaders themselves are the ones that you see currently downstairs serving the food, interacting with the seniors that come in every day. So we're going to be adding a couple more of those positions as well. And then we are going to be adding rec specialists to our senior division, which we don't currently have. And those will be the ones that will be working at the front desk there, taking registration, answering phones, giving out information, and supporting the rec coordinator and the recreation supervisor. Our current facilities maintenance person, Sean, who's here with us now at this facility, that does other things in City Hall as well, will be moving over to the senior center, and that will be his #1 priority. We'll be working there, helping with setups, helping staff do maintenance type tasks, putting things up, taking things down. So in comparison to what Laura is talking to you about, with all brand new staffing, all brand new facilities, we're getting some new staff, and we'll definitely be getting more programs because we'll have more time and more space. But we're basically moving what we do here to a new facility. So there's not quite as much change and not as quite as much additional staffing that will be involved. But the other hand is the same thing we'll be doing as Laura was speaking. When you move into a new facility, it's like moving into a brand new home. There are things that come up that you don't always anticipate. You don't anticipate, the air conditioning doesn't work right. That door that's supposed to open automatically and close automatically doesn't always do that. So a lot of what's going to be going on at the senior center facility will be the recreation supervisor person and myself will be doing a lot of what we call checklist, hit list, making sure that everything is working the way it does. And the big difference between the senior center and the other centers is the hours. We're going to be closing at 4. Staff will be there till later. These centers are open much longer hours than we are, and we will not be open on the weekends to begin with. We want to grow into our home. Programs go well. We have more time to do things on the weekends, and we get a lot of people requesting those things. Then we will definitely open up for more programs. The other advantage of being closed in the evenings, if the programs at the community centers get too full, we have more space that's usable in the evenings for recreation classes and programs. So that's my information for the, I don't want to say senior, what should I call it, Sandy? The clubhouse. For the clubhouse. If you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer those for you.
Call it Area 52 or something.
Area 52. I like that.
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, question, comment, a little bit of both, if I may, please. You didn't, on your list of doors opening in and out and things like that, I know you didn't mention something like slab leak or...
Oh, we don't even go there yet. We're hoping. We didn't have that at the sports park, thank gosh.
Well, that means more chance of having one.
But I can tell you some good stories about the skate park. That's for a whole nother time.
Yeah.
So I lived through that.
I was
too.
there during those days.
Yeah.
I remember some of the stuff we went through.
Yeah.
We made it, thank God. I think this is and I'm going to title it a great start. I think, when that opens compared to, as last night I had the opportunity to describe to somebody, I guess, from a law enforcement standpoint, he could feel pretty safe breaching this place, as to where and how we conduct all of our, 90% of our civic activities in this room is what it is, which has doubled and tripled and quadrupled as God knows what. And now we're moving into, an era where there'll be specialized facilities and, and things like that. Personally, again, and I'll leave it personally, I think to a great extent we and everybody in the city needs to change to a great extent their opinion, their how do you deal with programs that you would host in an Area 52 type building, that you would host in a community center, in a performing arts center, because, to be very honest, we really do not have experience in doing that. And, I mean, we've learned things from other places, especially the staff. I mean, I feel very confident with the staff that we do have to, take this on their back and move forward with it. And that's a great thing. But I think, too, just when I read this thing kind of through and then put away and read it again the next day, the thing that came up in my mind, and I've heard comments made like that the investment we're making in our city, in our activities for our residents, and that, it's a waste of money. And it's been in places where it can be read, a blog that occasionally is subscribed to by people and things like that. But it's out there. It exists in a sense. So it's almost like, wait a moment, you did that in this room, and now you're building 3 independent buildings, and you had a bunch of people, and it doesn't look like you haven't really expanded hours. And I mean, I'm just coming from the standpoint of somebody who really does not understand the gold mine we've just really unearthed and the things that we can do. So from a, call it marketing standpoint, it might be helpful to, and you mentioned it, I heard you say it in when you were talking about the senior center, that sentence got incorporated that we are going to start, that this is a start, and next year the start will be amplified on, and year 3 and year 4, and we will continue to grow. And I think you mentioned that too, Vicki. The words you use, grow into our new home, and that the populace out there will see that this isn't just a nice facade that we're going to keep open part-time, and here's the limit of what we can do and will do. And I think that's a real important thing to it also. Addressing the fees, and having had about 10 minutes to reflect on what Victor was saying with fee recovery, I met at CPRS a gentleman who, what his company does, what they do, is, interestingly enough, something we're considering, fee studies. And, just had an open conversation with him, trying to make it sound like it was gloom and doom to a point. And his reaction to that was that, yeah, you're doing this, and if the people see you hyping it and touting it, and they see that your city is spending money for good facilities, hopefully, and he went through his whole methodology of what they would do and things like that. He said the population will be willing to support continued expenditures, which does make sense. So you have to spend money to make money, or along those lines. And the other thing to think about, again, with fee recovery, and I hope when we get more into this fee study, we have some open discussion about it, as opposed to, well, they're going to do this, they're going to look at 12 different cities and do that and come up with what the fees are. Well, 11 to 12 cities may not have anything like this. So what? I'm going to take one subject that I personally got intimately involved in all aspects of it, and that was weddings when that time came around. And what do you get? What do you pay for? What can you ask for it? And things like that. And I would think if we did a fair amount of those, just to take one at this point, that would be something that I think we should almost aim to get 100% fee recovery for and not be unabashed about doing it. Because it's going to be, to a great extent, the same as any facility that has a kitchen, that has all of the amenities to offer call it a Class A wedding. Again, maybe limited as far as the number of people. It can't accommodate 2,000, but there's a lot of them that go for 300 or things like that want a meal, that want all of these fineries with it, and the going cost for those is X, whatever that number comes out with. Whether it's done at a civic center facility, or whether it's done at an outfit that has a facility that just does weddings and things like that. So I think there will be, as we come into this more and more, and we spend more time over this next year really delving into what we're building, that it will become obvious that it's not the same as like sports park fees and this kind of fee necessarily, and a program class fee and things like that, but we're going to have a very open mind towards what we feel we can be able to. And, if it's not what other people in the business are doing, well, no, then the answer is obviously no. But it doesn't mean we have to be lower or have to be higher or whatever. So that was just kind of an initial comment. There's so much more, I think, that will come out of kind of now seeing this, and here's our basis, and kind of sleeping on it and having more discussion about it internally and things like that. I think we have, I would almost maybe later like to suggest something as a possible consensus item during comments related, to this. So, thank you this time.
Very good. Now we can move into the, what?
Victor, I have a request to speak on this agenda item.
Oh, by all means.
Okay. Heiko Bichelle.
Good evening, all. Heiko Peschel again. Just a few comments, especially in reference to what Jim had to talk about. My wife and I are amateur radio operators, and we've been that for over 25 years now. And our headquarters of our organization is in Mission Viejo. So we've been using the Norman P. Murray Center. They've been using it for over 30 years, the club. We've been using it for 25 years. It started off as a very small building with one reasonably big room and a bunch of little ones. And about less than 10 years ago, they more than doubled the size of it. They do have some advantages. They have soccer fields and open areas next to it. They have several large outdoor organizational meetings every year. But in general, that building is full from morning to evening. Every day it's open. We usually shut it down around 9 o'clock on Monday nights when we have our meeting there. But it's very much in use by all the organizations in the city and a bunch of organizations outside of the city, weddings. You know what our little Foothill Ranch building charges for a wedding or any other special event? $200 an hour. That's just for this itty-bitty thing. Yeah, it's got a kitchen, it's got a bar, but that's about it. So when you're looking at pricing, compared to all the different private ones as well as the official city ones, because I think that's important. I'm all in favor of doing this. I did not see a picture of my antenna on top of that, but we'll worry about that later. I know it's in the plan somewhere. Anyway, I would like to encourage all of you to push this and push it as far forward as you can, because I think it's a good thing for the city. It will do a lot toward bringing our residents closer to each other. Thank you.
Very well. Anybody else?
That's it.
Okay, so if I'm assuming correctly, we can move into the 2018 Recreation Report.
I'll start the report this evening. Sandy did such a great job in her report, and then Doug talked about something else I was going to talk about, so I only have one thing left now. I wanted to highlight the Special Needs Valentine Dance that took place on February 10th. We had 123 guests. I think that was one of the largest dances that we had. It was a very, very fun night. We made each of the participants their own special Valentine from the city. Everybody got a box of candy hearts when they came in. We had our special guest always, which is our Marines who come and dance with all of our participants. And as always, it's a great time. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the fact that we're having our Special Needs Resource Fair coming up. At this point, I think we're up to 40 to 45 vendors. Each day we have new people coming in. The last one we got was Goodwill Industries, which we've been trying to have come for quite some time, and they'll be there that day. And we're also, I think, working on finalizing the Easter Seals organization to come this year. So that's always a nice event to come to. We have special guests, mini therapy horses, which are amazing to see. That will be at the sports park. And we're also having a demonstration by a special needs group that does square dancing. So that should be super fun. The last one I wanted to bring to your attention is the Needs Pro-Am contest was scheduled for this weekend and it got rained out, so it's now rescheduled to April 7th.
To April 7th?
Yes, correct, April 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, and that's my report for this evening. I'm moving on to Laura, unless you have questions for me.
I have a comment.
Yes.
As always, when I look through your reports, I'm always impressed with the number of participations. And I'm sure, I know that's going to continue.
Yes.
But what's exciting to me is when we move into the new Civic Center, this thing is going to expand tenfold, without a doubt, and adding more activities, more programs, and gosh, that's what I'm waiting for. So, but I did observe an interesting statistical variation here. I'm not sure if it was just a blip, but I want to talk about Snowfest for a moment. I picked up the fact there was a 25% drop on attendance from 2017 to 2018, and that caught my eye, and I wanted to see if there's any implications or behind that number of why that was.
This year was the first year that we decided to do a pre-sale wristband. So we did a pre-sale wristband to get a better estimate of how many people were going to be coming to the event. So a lot of times when you put that out there in the brochure and advertise pre-sale wristband, try to push them to come to purchase them ahead of time, then it kind of deters them from showing up at the event. So I think that there was a little bit of that, a little bit of the weather, but at the same time it was kind of nice because there was the open space. It wasn't like a big drop off as far as attendance goes. There was a lot more people that were there just observing or bringing the young children.
So it wasn't as crowded.
It wasn't as crowded, but sometimes it's nice to have those ebbs and flows of being able to walk around and not pushing and shoving and elbowing each other to get up the hillside.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I was just curious. I mean, 3,000 people participating is an excellent number.
Yeah, and we're trying to get people to purchase the wristbands ahead of time more and get them in the nature of doing so that way it's not a big rush to get to the event half an hour early to stand and wait in line and then miss half of the event because you're standing in line half the time instead of enjoying the event. So that's kind of going to be the nature of how we
certainly makes a lot of sense rather than having all the crowding at the beginning of the program and to stand in line and try to get organized.
Yeah.
So I think that smooths out rather nicely. I just was curious, and I understand that this was the first time it was implemented.
Yes.
And what was the conclusion? I mean, did it go according to expectations?
Well, especially for that event, because usually that's the event that we're going to get the most complaints. So this was the first time we didn't because of the lighter crowd. So it gives more opportunities to go up and down. Imagine yourself as a child and you have to wait in line to go up the hill, come down, wait again to go up the hill. It's kind of like waiting at Disneyland. So it was nice because they had a constant flow of people being able to enjoy it more times.
Well, I like the idea of innovation. Was there anything that you're going to do differently based on your first experience for next year?
From this year? Mm-hmm. No, we actually changed a lot in the event as well. We changed a lot of the locations of the booths, the way that the booths faced the attendees, and kind of made it more street forward rather than hillside. So the changes that we made this year, we felt really comfortable with the positive.
That's great.
Turnout.
Job well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Laura, I think one of the things that you had mentioned making a change on, which I think was for the positive, was to further reduce the, whatever that whirly-bird thing was, the two toys that were left.
Carnival rides.
Carnival rides, thank you. That really didn't draw that much. A question, was the drop-off in, call it, total sledding attendance equally spaced over all three sessions or mainly focused on session number 3?
Mainly focused on session number 3. The first two are always most impactful.
Yeah.
The first one always sells out. Second one's a little bit,
Right, because that's what I heard as well.
Right.
I know we
Kinda
had
just tails
more
off.
of the little ones who came to play,
Right.
which was good.
Right.
And I think that area, if it could be expanded even a little bit more, that would be great.
Right.
But maybe then to look at for the third session, I don't know, 2 weeks before, when you know it's not going to sell out or be that close to it, maybe just to do it through social media or something, as opposed to some kind of other press campaign or whatever, or put it, like what Jonathan is doing with this next door Pittsburgh Park that reaches about 6,000 homes. Does everybody read it? No. But do some people read it? Yes. And at least you give yourself a little bit of a fighting chance to, recoup a few of them.
Sure.
Without a lot of effort.
I would like to look at the numbers, too, for the third session, because maybe the third session isn't even necessary and everybody's just going to go to the first two. If it's you know what I mean? If that's the case where there's not that many people, do we oversaturate it with marketing, or do we just keep the two?
Lengthen the amount of times of
Right.
the two that we
Oh,
have.
expand the times,
So
right.
you have more time to go up and down and just not have the third one.
Yeah, I think the decision eventually you have to make is how many people do you want to have sledding?
Right, right.
And let's say if it's, I'm just going to pull even numbers so I can divide them. If you want to have, let's say, 3,000, it probably makes sense doing 3 sessions at 1,000. Or you can still do 2 at 1,500. But even if you do it that way, because you're going to extend them, is still going to be long to an extent of people kind of just being there. Oh, I know I'm going to get up again, but I've just been waiting, and that type of thing. So then, if you want to reduce the overall number, then, you work with that. But I would say if your third was that much lower, it might be better to reduce the numbers in 1 and 2. Spread it out over the 3 that way, and that way everybody can, with the same time frames, won't have that long a line.
Yeah.
And the people in session 3 have really no line because they waited till, and the last one worked best for them.
Right, exactly. It's definitely something to look into, and to see the numbers, like how many people are registered in each one and how much it tapers down.
Yeah, I mean, do we have those numbers for this
Oh,
year?
yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, then we've got the basis to look at that.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Very well.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to cover the back end of the programming. So we had limited programming as far as we had no special events in February, but we did have a great Pet Expo in the rain this last weekend. So the Pet Expo went on rain or shine. We had, I'm just going to talk about it just because it was exciting. We had 101 booths projected, and we had about 60 booths actually show up. So that was good, along with about 800 people in attendance. So we still had a lot of adoptions. We had some kitten rescues, the puppy rescues, the dog rescues. We had reptile rescue there, birds, and then also the pet vendors that were there. So I just thank you for attending. If you were there, Jim, I appreciate it. I wanted to highlight for the month of February, I wanted to look at, if you guys didn't see the kindness campaign, I really love highlighting this area from Kids Factory. Brett Brady does a great job highlighting each month, and I will have him come in the next month or two to explain exactly what they're doing out there, because I think it's such a great opportunity to highlight these kids, what we're doing each month. I told them if we can highlight one kid from each one of our schools in our district and just give a little synopsis of what these kids are doing. They're thrilled about this program. It's something that they really are excited about. They really do make the effort, and what they're doing, again, is highlighting each one of the kids at the schools and giving them, not only are they doing it for the prize, but they're actually doing it because they do like the idea of the kindness campaign, especially in the situation we're in with World. So also I just wanted to highlight Open Gym. If you haven't seen the numbers are great once again. It just seems like even now that we're approaching spring break, I have a feeling that at the end of this month we'll have outstanding numbers as well. Last month we have 814 total attendance for Open Gym. That's really great. If you ever get an opportunity to go into the sports park during the lunchtime hours, you'll see a great group of about 25 young men that are playing basketball, and they're there every day. It's really neat. Back to Kids Factory. Kids Factory has a total attendance right now of over 1,071 participants. It's outstanding. We haven't even hit spring break yet, and I would assume that we're going to get a good, probably 50 more people registered. That's always a popular time where people like to utilize Kids Factory, even if it's just for one day. So those numbers, you see February 2018 to 2017, same amount of days, but the numbers are quite up in attendance by 2000. I just wanted to highlight, again, Bunny Blast is coming up. I know the ACT representative talked about it a little bit. They're working really hard to get this new theme together. In the past, we've always had a Alice in Wonderland theme, and this year we're doing a Dr. Seuss theme. It's super cute, and hope to see you guys all there. Any questions for me?
Thank you. Well, we're now have the director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Commission, I will be extraordinarily brief. 2 items that originated with the Commission. I just wanted to provide an update. One was the possibility of a no smoking ordinance in public parks. We've done a bit of research on that. I have shared information up the chain, and we're checking in with the City Council on that. The second item is changing the meeting time of the Parks and Recreation Commission to match the meeting time of the City Council, which is 6:30, and we're likewise exploring that with the City Council. And you may recall that when Commissioner Herron gave her verbal presentation to the City Council, those were 2 requests that she made, and we didn't really get a response. Wanted you to know that we are following up. And that's my update.
The response would be part of an agenda to be brought up for a vote. Is that correct?
If the council is interested in pursuing either of those options, then we would agendize it for the City Council and take that forward.
Because I haven't seen anything on the agenda.
It hasn't gone. They still need to, I think, have the conversations with the city manager and indicate whether they're interested in pursuing those options.
Okay. So that who knows what the timeline is on that?
Correct. I just wanted to provide an update to let you know that there is some movement there.
All right. Very good. Commission comments. We'll start with Commissioner Barajas, followed by Commissioner Porter.
I will also be brief. I was just wondering if, I know the number's probably going to come next month, if anyone had any idea about how many people attended the farmers market, since we just had our first one.
We actually had 4 vendor booths. We technically had about 10 scheduled, but it was that day that looked like it was going to rain. Yeah. So they kind of bailed out. Jim was there. You know, the thing is, that day we had a lot of walk-by traffic. It's on the Commons area, so I don't really know exactly how many people were intentionally there for the farmers market, but we did get a lot of passers-by that will definitely come back. If not, they're definitely interested in being a vendor.
Right.
And since then, I've probably spoken to another half a dozen people. So it's going to be something that grows, and we're not giving up yet. We're going to go through, I spoke with Nick, we're going to go through the beginning of September, and hopefully I would say within the next 2 to 3 farmers markets, we'll be able to have some real legs to the program.
Yeah, I noticed some of the comments on social media were like, it would be great if we could have actual like food and flowers and things, like farmers market type stuff. And then, but like you guys are super responsive, because then the next day I saw the social media post looking for food vendors. So you're listening and they're seeing it. So I appreciate that. And then I attended the amazing dog park ribbon cutting ceremony for the reopening, where I had some pretty amazing cookies. I noticed on social media that some people were complaining about the placement of the shade structure, that they weren't getting that much shade. But I assume that was just because it was built to accommodate the position of the sun during the summer, right?
That's exactly correct.
Okay.
And there additional benches will be placed underneath the new shade structures.
Okay.
It hasn't been completed yet.
Right. And then that is all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you guys are doing a great job with the different programs. Unfortunately, due to my circumstances over the last couple months, I haven't been able to attend as many things, but I'm looking forward to some of the new things you have planned. I'm really excited to see the community center and all the plans going forth there. Love seeing all the the bump in the social media. Much like Commissioner Barajas, I too am looking on social media constantly and seeing the response, and definitely applaud that, because I know that's something that I brought up, months ago, and it's great to see it happening and seeing the response, and hopefully other residents are taking advantage of that. Have you, just a quick question, have you noticed, like with the parks this time, have you gotten an increase in?
Yes, it actually has created an unanticipated problem, which is we're getting information from so many directions, from door hangers that we left that have postcards, emails, telephone, Facebook, online surveys, that really, I'm at this point, as we move forward to the commission meeting and the council meeting, I think it's people's actual attendance at the meeting and participation in those conversations about their parks that is going to be most important, because it's difficult to assimilate all of that.
Right.
I will say there's a definite pattern. You hear sort of the same things from all the different areas, which is good. It tells us that we're sort of kind of hit a saturation point.
That's great. That's all my comments.
Oh, very, very good. Commissioner Rosenberg.
Thank you. Well, what was it, last month the mayor forgot his glasses, so he couldn't read his agenda and whatever. This time I forgot my little cheat sheet of things to quickly cover, so I'll try to do it from memory. Francisco agreed. The cookies at the shade structure unveiling probably get at least an A grade, right? So, yeah. And
That was
kudos
Laura.
to whoever found them on staff.
Laura.
They were
That was
Ralph's.
Laura.
Was it Ralph's or?
Where was that from, Laura?
Very good.
They're like muffin tops, right?
Yeah. They were
Muffin tops from Ralph's.
really, really good. And but the other purpose for us being there that day, the opening of those, because there's two of them, the shade structures, I think trying to look at the glass being half full on it is that it does cover a fair amount of the open space of the park, so the dogs and the humans will have, places where, especially as it gets warmer now, or will start to get warmer, they have a place to, to get out of the sun. Staying on the dog subject, the Pet Expo, kudos, Laura, to both of the ladies that I saw there, semi-damp in the morning on Saturday, and again, I was amazed to see how many people showed up. I honestly did not expect that many would come out there, and as many that brought their animals with them. That was the other thing. I did not think that many folks, you know, I mean, okay, let's go quickly, we'll go spend half an hour, go there, we'll leave the dogs, you know, come back, dry off, whatever. But, and, you know, again, good turnout by the vendors, too. I think, you know, commend them, or I don't know if you sent them a thank you letter or something, you know, even amplify under the circumstances that you did honor your commitment and you did come out. And I think that would be a nice thing to do to them, because that'll make them next year probably toe the line again, that they would, you know, realize not everybody showed up and, well, maybe we shouldn't have or whatever. Hey, they got thanked for doing it. They got thanks for coming out. And the memory of those that didn't can be the empty marked tent spaces, that there was a number still on the grass and not a tent standing over the window. But again, it was a nice, sadly, the big dogs didn't seem to mind the water too much. But some of the little ones were, they were pretty cold. But it's gratifying to hear that you did have a good number of adoptions, and that in that event, in that extent, it was a success, which was great. Last on the kind of the animal agenda, I had the opportunity to go to the Orange County Animal Care new shelter in Tustin for the, call it, official, with all the speeches and plaques and presentations and that of the animal control shelter. And having been in the old one a couple times previously, which was, I think, going on 78 years, the year it closed its doors finally, or the doors fell in, whatever they did, I kind of was sitting there and thinking, well, I kind of now know, at least for dogs and cats, what the senior center, Area 52 and the rest of the Civic Center is going to look like when they open up. The place it was $35 million price tag. It is absolutely phenomenal. They have operating theaters that deserve that name because they're that big. There's 3 of them. It's not like this little cramped thing like the other place had. Hopefully the dog won't need this because nothing in here works, or cat needs it. They have, to the point of doing, and a lot of it is volunteer-based, intervention programs and for pet owners who may have to surrender pets because of either a health condition or a living condition or something, where they will actually try to find homes for the people with the pets, or to find parents, a foster family that will keep them full-time. So they, again, doing a lot of good things. And I spent some time talking with she is the deputy director of whatever they call their community services thing. It's Orange County Community Resources is what they call it. And got to talk a little bit about some of the things that we do here in Lake Forest, basically. And I'm going to write it up, Vicki, for you for an excursion suggestion for the seniors to do. And she was absolutely thrilled by the idea. She said, that's exactly what we're looking for, and if you guys would maybe do it, I think they want somebody to be first, and then I'll write it up, give it to you guys, and then you can go from there. But it's right now new, so that would be kind of intriguing. And the campus is beautiful. I mean, it's really, really very, very well done. So, it's kind of nice to see for all of those of us who have animals, in our lives, that they now have a much better place to go if they get into that situation. Let's see. Also, among other things along the line besides that, I had the opportunity, that was last night, believe it or not, to actually participate, and it's a long story, which don't necessarily have to go into, the retirement of a 30-year law enforcement official with the Orange County Sheriff's Department. And the connection is that before he went into law enforcement, he also served in the Marine Corps. And in planning his retirement party, with my connection with that, they thought, let's see if we can get Jim to get a color guard for him, which we did, and we did in such a way that he had no idea that there was a Marine color guard actually there until they came in to present the color after dinner. And I was watching him, and he told me after the event was over, he said, "Did you see the tears in my eyes?" And I said, and he still looks like, he looks like he's about 40 and he's in his 50s. And I said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "You really got me." And he said, "You really moved me." And it's like once for all. So yeah, it was kind of a fun occasion. And I will tell you that law enforcement retirement, they feed you. Oh my God, unbelievable. So it was.
Where was this? Was that a
It was actually held because of accommodation and schedule in RSM, and he's over here at the Woodrow, the Southeast Operations Center. He's the #2 guy there, and they do Lake Forest, Mission, RSM, and all the unincorporated territory. It's their patrol area. So that was the place they could get it with date and things like that. Of course, I'm thinking in the future, senior center. What a nice place, or Area 52 or the community center. What a great place to have, that kind of an event for somebody that's in the city. Yeah, the mysterious, all this kind of nutty stuff that goes on there, for sure. I think there are, maybe not necessarily for the digestion right here, right now, with the timing of that, but from some of the input coming from community and even from some of the people on council with projects related, let's say, to what we're doing with the parks, with the fee studies, and things that will really affect what community services will provide to the community. I think the important thing is to keep an open mind, for one, and to also, and I hope nobody gets offended by that. I know there's always some, like every time, that will say, don't change anything, just leave it the same way it's been, for whatever. But to look at ways to improve the facility. And also at the Pet Expo, I also had an opportunity to spend some time with Bob Stewart, and there's the light starting to show. So, and I think also partly thanks to your efforts, and that. So, you don't have to be afraid to go out of the building. It's okay. But there's a voice of reason. He's frustrated, and I think he's just seeing the bigger picture now, that this is already considered to be part of something that's going to happen, as opposed to making it happen and then having to pick it all up and try to do something else with it and things like that. So, hopefully it was positive. And again, apologies for St. Patty's Day favorite lunch and the Senior Advisory Board meeting, which I try to religiously attend, but this was the annual regional whatever. And I'll tell you again, the one good thing about going to this is the encouragement to put those monies aside to go to the NRPA show, because it is really, really so much better from a standpoint of everything. Even though this time I had some awfully good input from vendors and just talking to different people just to get ideas and things like that. So, again, I will close it at this point and thank you.
Very good, very good. My comments are brief, but the park supposable location on Lake Forest Drive and Dimension, what are we calling that? Is that the garden?
Village Pond.
Village Pond. No. Dimension and Lake Forest Drive, right? Whispering Hills, okay.
Whispering Hills, I'm sorry.
I was searching for a description here. I haven't heard too much about Whispering Hills, other than it's fenced in. I can't see through there. I don't know what's going on. Perhaps you can give us an update.
I can. It's a good question. So it was originally in year 3 of the City Council strategic plan, and they recently moved it to year 2. which means that next year, as early as next year, we could begin a design process.
Next year, 2019.
The fiscal year 18-19, correct.
So it's nothing for discussion until next year.
That's correct.
That's basically the bottom
That's correct. Right. We would do, just like we did with Portola Park, we would do a request for proposals and then select a consultant to lead the design process.
Okay, back to improvements and amenities of parks. You may recall a couple years ago, a number of us walked a number of parks, which was good because it gave me more of a understanding of improvements, amenities. And the biggest thing that stuck out to me is the lack of shade. Because when those parks were initially developed, well, they weren't really developed. I think it just sort of happened to be open space, I suppose, going back in the years. And from time to time, we might throw some paint here and there, and whatever the case may be. As far as maintaining status quo, no. As far as making improvements and not changing the character of the park, absolutely. I mean, just because you make changes or improvements doesn't mean you're going to alter a passive park necessarily into an active basketball with lights and arenas. I mean, a lot of the residents get nervous. So it seems to me that we're going in the right direction by focusing on stuff to make it better, not to change the personality of the individual parks. I mean, that seems to be the attitude, I think, from the commission standpoint, all the way to staff to look at needs of the park, because there's obviously opportunities that cry out because there hasn't been a lot done in many instances as far as improvement of amenities. And that doesn't mean that we're going to put restrooms in every park and we're going to do this and do that. What it means is based on input from the public to get some ideas. For example, on turf and some of the surfaces, my gosh, there's dire need to take a look at that. In the playground area, some of the apparatus has been there for years and years and years, so I think there's ample opportunity to look for upgrades. Now keep in mind that everything can be a priority, so we'll have to be prioritized and based on budgets and availability. Safety is certainly paramount, in terms of minimizing liability. Beautification, certainly. A lot of the passive parks don't have a lot of traffic. It's pretty peaceful. I was a little confused, though, by a comment earlier of someone using the park for dog obedience. Did they have permission to do that, or they just did it on their own?
They just did it on their own. It's not. It is a violation of the law.
That is a violation, isn't it?
Actually, dogs off leash, it's a violation for two reasons. Assuming the dogs are off leash,
as well.
That's one violation, and then conducting business in a park is also prohibited.
Now, does that mean, do we have ability to spot check parks to make sure that there's no illegal activity going on and so forth and so on?
It's really difficult because the only people that can issue citations are really the sheriffs for most of those violations.
That's the sheriff's department.
That's correct. If there were an animal control officer, I know that we had one on a temporary basis, on a seasonal basis, and what they do is they go around to various parks and they do exactly that. They spot check, they educate people.
That's not the case now? We don't have
I believe it's out until possibly it may come back in summer.
You say he's out. I mean,
so it was something temporarily that the city contracted with the county to have an animal control officer enforce the dog leash laws, and they did it for a number of months, and then they stopped, and I think they're getting ready to do it. I believe that we're going to be doing it again during the summer.
So this is kind of a hit and miss type of situation?
That's exactly right. It's just difficult to enforce. The city has, about 30 parks, and it's just difficult to catch people and to cite people.
What have other cities have done to address this? I'm concerned about that, and I haven't done any research, and I'm wondering from the experience of the staff what could be done.
What can be done is the city can contract for an animal control officer to enforce that. They do that now. They do it on a seasonal basis. So the councils have this discussion. They do it on a seasonal basis. I think just during the summer, if they may want to reconsider that and do that for other seasons as well.
Is that a recommendation that the commission can make, or is that already in play?
It's already in play.
Okay.
Yeah. So they had the discussion and they made that decision, and I believe they signed a contract for the additional work with the county. It's just a matter of waiting until the summer gets here, and I think that
So we would
individual will start.
expect to have some type of...
That's correct. It would still, to be honest, though, it's still going to have a limited impact because they really have to see someone and they have to catch them in order to issue a citation. Right.
Boy, that... And back to my initial question, are you aware of what other cities are doing? Or
They do the same thing. Really large cities that have much bigger budgets, they might have a park ranger program, but park rangers are expensive. I mean, a sheriff's deputy is I believe over $120,000, the fully burdened rate.
Whoa.
And then under that would be an animal control officer. It's significantly less, but a park ranger program is very expensive because now you're taking on new staff. You're paying pensions, you're paying disability, there are trainings, there are certifications. So it's a tough program to run. It can be done, but most cities kind of the size of Lake Forest, there aren't a lot of them that have that type of program.
Yeah, I know. Reading about all the possible crime and a lot of issues that are coming up with parks, I'm kind of wondering if we anticipate some of the problems that are going on elsewhere or problems that are becoming the Lake Forest in our parks.
I can't say. I think I can't say.
Yeah, it's an unfair question because there's just too many moving parts when you're looking at those kind of things. Yeah. All right, moving along though, as you all know, I always comment on Heritage Hill Historical Park because I'm very active there, and I'm one of the docents there, and particularly specializing in children's programs for history appreciation, where each of the schools in the Saddleback and other districts, Campo, San Juan Capistrano, have programs to bus their third grade class over to the park, and we have a set historical program designed for third graders where they can actually experience what it's like living in the 1800s on a farm. I mean, that's basically where we came out of, a farm or a ranch raising cattle. And we actually provide activities of what it's like going to school in those times. We have a one-room schoolhouse. What's it like to live on a farm? And, of course, quite different than it is today. So that will certainly continue. And I think I may have mentioned it in the past. We run about over 100 children a week through this program. It's almost like having our own parks program going on. And we don't charge for those programs. And I think we have to charge something, so it's like $1 or $2 per student or some, just or a fee. But it's all done by volunteers, so there's no paid staff, and it's worked very well. We have a volunteer organization I've been part of for many, many years, and they all volunteer their time to do all the activities that's done by volunteers. So if it wasn't for the volunteers, there's no way the county can operate on the programs. So we have a wonderful partnership with the City of Lake Forest and many of the big activities coming up, and that will certainly continue. I've called upon our video, audio-visual support services here at the city to invite them to come out and do some filming to promote what we're doing on behalf of the city. Interesting enough, many residents don't even know that park exists because it's kind of tucked in right on next door, to the Ralph Shopping Center at the end there, and Bagels and Brews right there, and people learn about us when they have breakfast and they look over and say, oh my gosh, what's all that over there? I mean, that's how I learned about it, 15 years ago. So we're trying to promote the historical park in the community. It's the first historical park Orange County developed. It was developed in the mid-'70s. So it's kind of exciting. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add. If there's nothing further, I will call this meeting adjourned.